Unsere Ausstellung Gegenklänge beginnt mit einem Zufall. Oder vielleicht ist es ein Spiel des Zeitgeistes.
Our exhibition, Gegenklänge, begins with a coincidence. Or is it perhaps the Zeitgeist, the spirit of the age playing with us? It begins with a crumpled page of newspaper from 1955, which was found in a window being used as insulating material. On it was a review of German abstracts in Paris. German artists of the pre-war period, German artists of the post-war period, who sought to develop their pictures openly, freely, without ideology. The page shows two artists, Fritz Winter, already a master painter, and Karl Otto Götz. The review lays particular emphasis on the harmony of the different types of picture with a wonderful phrase. This exhibition is proof that our suffering and the oppression which has burdened our existence all these years have refined our spirituality. I think that, with this in mind, we can now enter into these pictures. These pictures were still open, gestural and, in a way, unformed. And what is remarkable is that it was precisely this free way of painting which particularly attracted the sound artists and which they have attempted to render in sound.
Dass auf diese freiheitliche Malerei die Musikdesigner ganz besonders zugegangen sind und sie versucht haben, diese zum Klingen zu bringen.
I will introduce a monolith, which is hiding a vibrating object inside. This vibrating object is a personification of a bad, irritating world we are living in. The big black monolith is covered with reflecting paint, so everyone can see him, herself, when stepping into the room. The best and a worst version of him, herself. The vibrations will be propagated most of the time, but sometimes we will have a moment of silence, as a reflection of a beautiful world that shows us just a glimpse of something that will never happen. Just a preview, just a dream. The scissored Knaurs textbook renders visible the gaps in the modernist canon. The pictures forgotten or overlooked in the standard history of Western art. These pictures speak loudly in their absence. Moreover, the cutouts create a tangible scrim. Frames for missing pictures, perhaps, or an alternative history which invites the viewer to create new and compelling narratives. This picture is inspired by Rembrandt's The Night Watch, painted in 1642. Enrico Bach has translated the composition of the historical model into the modern-day perception of the computer's gaze. As on a screen, window is laid upon window. Space is created. The rasterization emphasizes the especially powerful composition of the group image, allowing its warm brown tones to come to the fore.
Hier also die Bilder der Maler, wie sie in der Rezension von Paris erwähnt worden sind.
These are the paintings by the artists who were mentioned in the Paris Review. The paintings were taken from the repository of the town of Sindelfingen and displayed in the so-called Petersburg hanging. The Petersburg hanging enables a simultaneous view of the pre- and post-war ideas of abstraction so that we are easily able to compare them even in their most different forms. We have also incorporated the abstract geometrical alignment in order to show a panorama of abstract painting in the post-war period. We were naturally particularly interested in the young informalists, such as the young Sonderborg. His pictures are fascinating, it was said, because their intense spiritual concentration enables the translation of the world and worldly experiences into pure symbols. And on Karl Otto Götz, the 40-year-old, as talented as he is unstable, showed 2 panels, which displayed a real dynamism, lively and elegant, but perhaps too hurried and too hectic, with the result that one cannot yet deliver a definitive verdict. And further on Bernhard Schulze, his sheer eruptive channeling and blending of colour dispenses with any sense of inertia. And that was astonishing. Also mentioned was Emil Schumacher, who particularly stood out because, from this purely gestural, informal, unclear position, he created paintings which have an extremely poetic, almost tender but nevertheless clear and powerful tone. And when we now return our gaze to the complete Petersburg hanging, we can clearly see how this style of painting, with its different forms and layers, prepared the way for the use of gestures, signs, and symbols. And we can see the movement towards the abstract, which the German collections of Daimler and the automotive industry would later make.
Bisher erwähnt haben und darauf auch nicht weiter eingehen wollen, die ganze abstrakte Richtung, mit der nachher die deutschen Sammlungen von Daimler und der Autoindustrie begannen.
With the floor installation, Studio Number 2, to whom it may concern, Schirin Kretschmann addresses the minimalistic sculpture tradition with personal allusions. The individual polystyrene modules, covered by panels of black MDF impregnated with linseed oil, correspond to the floor measurements of her Berlin studio. In the exhibition space, the rhythmically animated grouping touches particularly on Günter Uecker's series of nail reliefs, Progressive Reihe Bilder 1 bis 7, Progressive Rows, Images 1 to 7, which allude to a conflict between light and shadow in the spirit of the Zero group. The subject is replaced by the title, which is replaced by the image, of which it is, however, a part, which is in turn replaced by the dimension which reaches beyond the image, a motion of displacement. The images produced in the canvas printing process act like the score of a piece of music. In the upper middle is the title, with the music underneath. For real pieces of music, there are really too few notes. Above all, essential information, such as the time signature, tempo, dynamics, clef, or instrumentation, is mostly absent. These compositions cannot be played. They rather convey the aura of the sound and allow the music to be imagined. Kreidler translates the aesthetics of sheet music into various other media and modes of presentation, forming his own consistent worldview. For example, in films with miniature musical notation as a form of subtitles for the deaf. This sound installation is concerned with making time perceptible, despite its appearing to stand still. A three-dimensional snapshot of string instruments which appear to be floating freely in space. The three instruments, two celli and a double bass set in a circle, are played without being touched by a wheel driven by a mini-computer. The result is a dark, oscillating expanse of sound, which alters over the course of the exhibition according to changes in the tension of the strings, and thereby evades the complete control which the computer originally has over the sound. We cross thresholds, constantly breaking through. We do not tire of stepping over these thresholds in order to leave old spaces behind us and step into new. We have to pass through the door. Impulses and knocking sounds urge us to open it. We prick up our ears, pause. We could still turn back. Should we go or stay? It can take a while. 3 seconds. 4 seconds. Once we have crossed the threshold and closed the door behind us, we are in a new space. What do we find? More signals which have to be decoded. New circumstances, different priorities. Where could we go? Should we? Maybe not. Is it the fear of chance, of the consequences, which renders us unable to move? We stand still. The signals become more frequent. The urgency grows. We have to act. This piece is a selection of 50 color definitions found in the book Farbnamenlexikon von A bis Z, a color lexicon edited in Germany and written by George Seufert in 1950. This book is an attempt to classify the subjectivity of what a color is. I chose 50 descriptions found in the book and selected 50 images from my archive according to the color descriptions contained in the book. The sound that accompanies the work is the recorded voice of the selected definitions. The viewer is free to decide which image corresponds to which description.
Aalporzellan. Gelbes, altes, feines chinesisches Porzellan. Aalstrich. Dunklere oder hellere Linie auf den Rücken von Pferden und Rindern. Abendrot. Färbung des Himmels bei untergehender Sonne. Von goldgelb bis zart purpurviolett spielend. Wird durch die Trübung der Erdatmosphäre ebenso wie das Morgenrot hervorgerufen. Adularblau. Der Mondstein, meist farbloser Feldspat mit bläulich-weißem, silberigem Schimmer, perlmutterähnlich adularisierend, bildet die Namensgrundlage zu einem blassen Graublau aus der Ultramarinfamilie.
Rodrigo Hernández and Christian Meyer have produced an artist's statement on the concept of time, which is fundamental to the exhibition GEGENKLA. They are concerned with adapting historical developments for a modern frame of reference, that is, to a contemporary but also to a personal context. Hernández. In a series of sketches, Rodrigo Hernández turns his attention to the legendary 1969 exhibition When Attitudes Become Form, which looked at Western art with new eyes, and which, despite showing works from so many different artists, had an entirely harmonious effect. This night composition was created using only electroacoustic means. The fantasy of a whispering voice in the consciousness of a deep darkness. The memory of a childhood experience, playing in a dark cave near our house. In this place of darkness, there is a voice of suspended silence. Whispers direct us to look into the cosmos, which spreads itself over the deep night. Iron grids, ordinarily used in architecture for the reinforcement of concrete, are professionally laid from wall to wall. The title Angsteisen, a technical term used in the construction industry, refers to the amount of iron used to ensure the static stability of a structure which has been constructed without an engineer's calculations. The exposed, minimalistic lattice structure, skillfully and precisely constructed, develops a strong poetic power of functionally ambivalent beauty from the thin chased iron bars, which sway when stepped on, in a rhythmic play of light. Strongly coloured yet cool images, which relate to each other according to timbre. The composition of each individual image is achieved as a result of the process. A shape is put in place, broken up again. A spatial structure emerges. The conflict in the shaping of the images reflects the concept of perception in the present age of media. The images are brought into existence by the process of painting, by the haptic qualities of the picture's surface. In totalitarian systems, the individual quickly becomes an insignificant part of the whole. The cup is a symbol of the individual, and the marble stands for its inner being, which goes round in circles, constantly chasing its own tail. Just as the individual's inner thoughts are unable to break free, the marble is incapable of finding a way out of the cup. Constantly rubbing against its inside, resulting in a buzzing sound from all the cups which fills the room, representing the conscious powerlessness and inner strife of the individual. The uniform colour scheme and the arrangement in a row represent the enforced conformity of the separate individuals. The setting of a workshop, builder's yard, is used to represent the way in which the music conservatoires in Baden-Württemberg are being treated by the Ministry for Science and Culture. The sound is provided by a special arrangement for tuning fork and a self-produced publicity film.
Jetzt gibt es für Sie die passende Lösung. Das neue und innovative MWK Multipower Set von BW wird Ihren Arbeitsalltag revolutionieren. Stets kraftvoll und immer durchsetzungsstark, auch unter schwierigsten Bedingungen. Das weltweit einzigartige MWK Multipower Set von BW besteht aus verschiedensten Werkzeugen, mit denen Sie Ihre Kürzungen effizient und spielend leicht optimieren können. Denn einfacher als je zuvor können Sie mit dem MWK KS46 präzise und zuverlässige Sollbruchstellen erzeugen. So können Sie Ihr Werkstück sicher auf die gewünschte Länge zurechtstutzen und erhalten im Handumdrehen ein perfektes Ergebnis, das sich sehen lassen kann. MWK macht das Leben leichter. Zusätzliche Informationen finden Sie im Internet unter www.mwk.baden-württemberg.de.